Hello, Soul Spiralers, and welcome back to today's episode. Today, I have the beautiful Isabella Baring here with me. She's also known, or goes by, Miss Honey as her artist name, and she is an artist and an entrepreneur singing in a new world of sovereignty, freedom, peace, love, joy, and making expansive healing and awakening music in service to the collective. She also helps others to awaken the Miss Honey within themselves. So I'm very excited to have Miss Honey, or Isabella, join me today. Welcome.
Thank you, beautiful Kristin. Very, very excited to be here with you and to see where this conversation goes.
Yeah, totally. I'm so excited to have you here as well. I remember when you were up here. Well, at the moment you're in Costa Rica, living in your best life. I love it. But you were in Queensland, was it last year, end of last year?
Yeah. Came to one of your women's circles.
I know, and that was I remember saying to you that was such like a full circle moment, because I met you at like this early stages of my like consciousness journey, let's say. And you were the first women's circle I ever went to, the women's circles that you were putting on. And I had Rachel Rose on recently that I met at your women's circle. So, so funny. You going
such a beautiful interweaving and community that we've shared over the years, and connection.
Definitely.
I know it's going to continue weaving over these coming years too.
Totally. Yeah, definitely the real sisterhood and the healing of those aspects of ourselves. I definitely think that our friendship was a real powerful one for me, or it has always been.
Yes.
So I want to know, you obviously have been on a big journey through your experience with music and sound and your expression. Would you be open to sharing a little bit about your journey and how you've come to be the beautiful human sitting in front of me on the Zoom?
Oh, of course. So yeah, basically as soon as I got out of the womb, I was like singing. It was just always my natural expression. And as soon as I like saw pop stars, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be that. Like, I'm meant to be up on the stage. It was just this calling from such an early age. And so I always pursued that and was like in the musicals, choirs, all of that at school, just loved it, have a beautiful, expressive mum. And so it was something that came quite naturally, but equally, I also had like so many different blocks, because while this pure expression was just beaming from me, you know, as children, like we're just pure love and light. It's just beaming from us in all directions. But then, of course, that old comes in and starts niggling and getting all those limiting beliefs in the way. And so when I was in my teenage years, I was prolifically like writing songs, and it was the only way that I could really express, you know, what was deep within me, and, you know, all that teenage angst, all of the emotions that we go through during puberty and just starting to find our place in the world. And I really wanted to pursue that as a career, but deep down, I didn't quite believe in myself enough to fully go for it and to, you know, continue studying music after school or do this kind of thing. So I kind of just went a little bit of a different path. I was like, I'm going to study at uni as a backup plan. Friggin' backup plan. Seriously, who invented those? Just go for your dreams. But of course, it's all part of the journey. And so when I was 19, I got offered to audition for a record company. This is when I was still like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then I said no to the audition because they wanted me to sign this contract that was just going to put me in the absolute shit. And my parents were like, don't do it. And then as soon as I said no to that, I just stopped singing. Like, I just lost this connection with my voice. And I basically went on a very different path of like uni, parties, just going really wild and losing connection with that sense of purpose and drive that I had at school, being like involved in everything. And so then as I started to have this spiritual awakening after getting very sick from all those years partying and in the clubs and at all the festivals, not taking care of my body, this led to a beautiful spiritual awakening where my consciousness started to expand much beyond what I had known into this beautiful state of presence and mindfulness and love, just connecting with that higher power that most of us in this day and age are not taught to connect with. We're not taught that at school. It's something most of us have to find. And even if we have, a family that's religious or something, still, that may not always be connecting to this pure divine energy. And so I see now how this whole, this is all part of this miraculous plan for me to find myself as a spiritual being who I really am, and then to be able to rediscover my singing and my songwriting through that. So it took many years of healing to find my voice again. I had to start so simple and basic with just little sound practices. And I had so much fear to ever write a song again. And I judged everything that I was doing and all of this kind of thing. And then I just started small with writing little medicine songs, little affirmations, and just singing that to myself, to heal myself. And I started exploring light language and just singing through tones and just freely expressing, not caring what came out, not judging what came out, and just letting sounds flow through me. And that was so beautiful, because when you really have that intention to connect to your divine source and allow that energy to flow through you, that is the energy that heals and purifies us. The more that we allow that energy to flow through and open our vessels to that energy, the more that we expand into our highest expression. And obviously my highest expression, since I've known since I was little, is to be, a performer, to be a singer, to be someone that is sharing this type of art. And so bit by bit, as I really devoted myself to these practices and to my healing journey, eventually I started writing songs again. And fast forward a few more years, now I've just released my first debut album, Disclosure, that was produced by my partner Brock, which was his first music production project. He'd never produced a song on the computer before. So a massive up level for him, a massive up level for me. And now songs just flow through me so effortlessly, and they're all coming from this higher place. Whereas when I was younger, they were really, coming from this place of disconnection, because I wanted to find who I was and who my source was, who my creator was. And I couldn't, I didn't know any of that, because I just wasn't aware of it yet. And then to now be singing and creating from that space, it's just so incredibly beautiful and liberating. And it's the perfect balance, because that higher part of me is able to hold, that inner child, that inner teenager who was so lost and confused. Now my higher self, is one with that part of me, and we create beautiful music together.
I love it. It really sounds like previously you were seeking your true expression, and now you're liberated in that true expression.
Yes, definitely. And I was still, when I was younger, I was still seeking approval. And because when I would sing, it would make people happy, because I was such a shining bright light, even though I couldn't see it or know it at the time. But I was shining so bright, in this pure innocence that we have, that is our essence. And so people would be so happy and be like, wow, wow. And so when you're young and you get that feedback, you're like, this is what I've got to do. And I have to do this to be worthy in the world, basically. And so it gets really tied up in your self-worth. And so we have to be able to let that go completely and not do it for anyone else but ourselves. And so for me, now I'm literally at this place where I am just creating this music, and even if no one listens to it, I don't even care, because it just feels so important to me. It feels so powerful and liberating for me. And I just feel like it's making a difference on energetic levels that we may never fully comprehend or need to comprehend. And so, it makes a difference for me. I hope others enjoy it, but I've also detached from that too, which is really nice.
I love that. It really sounds like you're in that point of like artists that like most, even like if I'm thinking of like a painter and they like paint this artwork and they half the time they hate it, they don't know if they like it, they go through this experience, but it's just like the expression of whatever they need to like get out into the world, and it makes people feel something, whether that's good or bad. And it's like, if art isn't making you question something in your life, like, is it really, you know, it works on so many levels like that. I really resonate.
Yes. The point of art is to make you feel something. And I know that there'll be some people with this new album that it just activates them and they're just like, oh my goodness, I love this. Like my inner warrior is coming alive. Like I'm so ready for this. And then there's going to be some people that will just be like triggered as fuck. Like, what the hell is she talking about? Like, why is she talking about like aliens and Christ and like just all of these random things that come into the album?
Yeah.
And then others will just listen to it with curiosity, like oh, like what is she talking about here? Like this is really interesting. Like I feel it in my heart. I don't understand what she's saying, but I feel this deeply. And so I'm just going to like receive this and just let it kind of sit with me. So, yeah.
And different things landing at different times. Like I was listening to Disclosure last night, your album, and the start of the album, I was like, oh yeah. And I was like really hearing the lyrics. And then it kind of like, I got lost in what I was doing. And I was like, I don't even know where like we're at in the music. I need to go back and like re-listen to this like other section, because I totally was like not present anymore. It was really interesting to witness that in myself. I was like, oh, okay, I need to go and like revisit different areas of it to see what that comes up for me as well.
Well, that's really interesting that you say that, because like, this album for me, it's not just any old album. Like it really is a consciousness journey that you go on, and it is going to bring some shit up for you, like even for me. So when I first like heard the almost finished version, like the first half I was just like, like vibing, okay, this is sounding great. And then suddenly in the second half I just started feeling sick, and like all this like self-hate and stuff was just like coming up, and I was just like disgusted in the music. Like it was wild. And this is like the process that, you know, I have to go through creating, but everything that I go through creating it, like this is what I then pass along to the people that are willing and ready to listen or to hear it on some level. And so it might not always feel good. Like the first album that I wrote before this, which I didn't release publicly, I just released a few songs as an EP. But that first album was all like pure love and light affirmation music. So every single song you listen to it and you just be like, I'm a fairy, it's rainbows and love and light everywhere. And then this album came from a much deeper, darker place, where instead of just activating those high vibrations, which is so important to do, for this second album, it was written during like the whole kind of COVID time, where there was a lot of shit going on, a lot of disclosure like happening in the world. And so there were a lot more painful emotions that I was feeling within myself and within the collective that I really wanted to transmute. And so that was more the intention with this, is actually to go to the root of the suffering, like pull out that root and then transmute that pain into the love and light and joy. And so I feel like it's a very different approach, but that's why it's like an even more epic and intense journey, because to really like go to the depths of those songs, it is going to potentially bring things up for you, or things that you might not want to look at, that kind of thing. And so, and saying that, it also is like the whole album might not be for you as well. There might just be like 2 or 3 songs that really resonate with someone, and that's going to serve them on their path. And then some of the other songs, either it's just not the right timing for them, or maybe it never will be. And that's okay as well, because it's just, you know, it's a whole kind of spectrum of my experience and what I've been through, really translating that into these sonic vibrations for everyone. And they're going to serve different people in different ways as well.
I love it. Yeah. What was the difference in your creative process, like from the album 1 and album 2?
Yeah, I literally just wrote a post about this because I was reflecting on it myself. So the first one, it was very much more intentional based. So I wrote every like I wrote the intentions for what I wanted the album to be about. I knew that I wanted this album to also be a course. So there were going to be 8 songs, 8 weeks of the course. And then each week the ladies would sing the song every week, and then they'd have different spiritual practices to go through that week that were all around that song. And then they'd move on to week 2 with another song and another set of practices. So that really was my intention, to take them deep on a spiritual journey of expansion, healing, awakening. And so like the first verse of that song, I can sing it for you if you want.
I'd love you to
It has all the intentions for those 8 weeks. So it's like, I open to the realms of infinite possibilities. I am the channel of love and light. I make magic as I sing, dance, and play. I'm clear on what I'm here to create. That's just the first 4 kind of intentions. So the first 4 weeks, each of those lines was one intention. So, you know, the start of a journey, I opened to the realm of infinite possibilities. I wanted people to have this feeling of expanding into like, what is possible for me? Who am I? What do I want to create in this world? You know? And then the second one, I'm the clear channel of love and light, like to be able to create who we want to be. We have to make sure our channel is clear and that we're purified, so that we can bring that divine energy into physical manifestation. And so really had these intentions, and then I would sit there and I would feel into that intention and just really like go deep into it until like inspirations and words started to flow through me. And then, you know, a part of the song might come, and then I might kind of have to go on a bit of a journey over a couple of days exploring that energy myself, and then the next part of the song would come. And so I would be taking myself on the journey first of like, and then everyone else goes on the journey after that I've kind of created. And I've created like a space where people can like come into that space and explore these energies with me. So that was the first album. And then the second album was very different, because it was just coming from like pure raw emotions. So like the first song that I wrote for it, only like a verse and a chorus came through at the start. And I was just feeling this like this anger and rage that kind of felt like it was coming up from Mother Earth, like so deep within me. And I was just like, what is going on here? Like, this is not right. It was like, I felt like this fierce mother that just wanted to protect all my children and just like slay all the oppressors and all of the, like, you know, it was this really wild energy that started coming through. And at the start, I didn't want to let that energy out, because I've been so, you know, identified in a way with myself being, you know, this expression of love and light, that then these intense energies are coming up, and I'm like, can I sing this? It was like this deeper voice that, you know, wasn't as pure. It was like, you know, and so I finally like let that out, and I was like, whoa, like, can I even sing this song? It was my children, and the chorus is like, give me back my children, then give me back my ocean, give me back my forest, then give me back my skies. And so it was really like Mother Earth just being like, you've taken these things from me, like, give them back. And yeah, so that was like, whoa, okay, this is what this next album's going to be like. All right, I better like put my seatbelt on for the ride. Like, here we go.
Yeah.
And then, you know, all the things with like the vaccinations and all of these things that were, all the divide that we had, all of the political stuff, it was just causing so much energetic and emotional turmoil. And so whenever that wave of emotion would come, I would just jump on board and I would write this song. And as I wrote it, like, it would just flow so naturally. Like, a lot of them would just come to me like already basically written. I didn't have to tune in like so deep. It would just be like, all right, ride this train. You know, here's the song, and it would just come from that emotion. But I would also you know, really be holding myself energetically, because, you know, as I'm sure you do as well, when we're feeling these dark emotions, we're not just letting them control us, you know, we're still like the consciousness that is observing and feeling that experience of the emotion. So my higher consciousness would still be there, like directing me in the experience, holding space for me to transmute those energies and to lift them up, to not just get stuck in dwelling on all of this horrible stuff, but to really be like, you know, we can shift this. We are responsible for shifting this. And yeah, that's how it went.
Wow, so powerful. There's so much in there. I really like could feel almost this transmission of like, I don't know, I want to say like the dark feminine, like kind of coming out of like going into all that shadow and being able to be like, actually, there's power here when I embrace it and I hold it from a place of like true consciousness and clarity. It's like, I'm really starting to see the picture of how you created this. Because when I look at even the album artwork from like your two albums, like what was the first album? Was it just called Miss?
The first one was the Divine Line Voice, was the whole album, and then the EP that I released was New Earth Nectar, but they had the same image.
Yeah, it was like all that very golden, like honey kind of energy, like feeling into this Miss Honey vibe. And this Disclosure album is like, it looks like dark. It's like a darkness on the album artwork, and like even the polarity of those two things. It's like this there's this real weaving, and it's like, oh, and I hear you're channeling a new album, so I'm really curious to see what like the third of this is.
Yeah, me too, right? I don't fully know what it is yet, but I think it's so true. I think I really did explore like this duality of like this pure light and then this darkness. And I feel like that's why they're kind of, they're like a couple on my journey. They kind of sit together in contrast. Yeah. And I feel like they're the two sides of me that will now be coming into union in whatever I create now, because as much as Disclosure was this powerful reawakening, like it was also very much coming from this like place of this like, you know, warrior energy of like, I need to save the children. I need to like save the planet. Like, oh my goodness, like it's so fucked. Like I need to do all these things. And, you know, that's an energy that a lot of us experience at times. And so it was a way of working with that energy. But now that I've finished the album, I've kind of been able to like rise back up out of that and like see the bigger picture of how everything is working out perfectly, and that we're like so spiritually supported and we've got everything, you know, we need to be able to heal and ascend as a planet. And so it's nice to be coming back into that like space of light. But I think that warrior awakening is such an important kind of phase that we go through, or, you know, some kind of initiation into the darkness is going to happen on our spiritual paths. And most people don't tell you this at the start. Like I thought I'd made it, you know, years ago when I was just in that pure love and light all the time, because I was just feeling so blissed out and happy, and I was like felt like I was already living my dreams because I was doing so many beautiful things. And then it's like suddenly the soul like initiation begins, and it's like for me it was an incredible roller coaster where I really like lost connection with that light for a while, and I really had to fight to find it again. You know, like I've never been about fighting, and I never thought that was really a part of spirituality, because for me it was always just about like peace and like slowing down and just relaxing into myself and, you know, connecting with the divine. But when you lose that connection with the divine because something happens to you or you go through trauma or whatever, sometimes the only option is to fight to get that back, because you're literally fighting for your life to even get close to finding that divine connection again. And you really have to like almost claw your way up out of that to be able to come back to who you are. And so that really is the journey that I went on in those last couple of years.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a fullness that comes with going into those depths, and a real sense of integration when you come back to the lightness of yourself and the wholeness. It's like, wow, actually I'm actually more integrated and more deep and more full in my powerful light now.
Yes I definitely feel that. I feel like before when I was connecting to like source, it was like only a certain level of like my source. Like it was much more like on a soul level. Whereas now I feel like I'm connecting straight to God, which you can still call source, but it's like there's many sources in this world. And like, to me, God is a word that now resonates as like the highest source, you know, the source of all sources, like our one true creator, you know, like that is like, I feel like now I'm connecting to that energy, and there's a lot less interference, because as you know, a lot of us are starting to understand like there is interference in like the new age and in the spiritual communities that can really deeply like affect us, basically, where we can think that we're, you know, connecting to something, or we can think that we're doing really good things, but actually, you know, we've been programmed in a certain way, like just like those programs in the 3D matrix, there's programs in the 4D ascension matrix, and there's programs even in the 5D. It's like, you know, there's all of these different like levels of consciousness and layers to this reality, and so there's always deeper to go, basically.
Totally. I really resonate what you said about finding like a comfortability in using the word God now, because I've experienced this too in probably the last year or so, where beforehand I would always use source or universe, because I had this discomfort with working with and believing in this aspect of God. And it doesn't mean there's like a man God,
yeah.
which I think
Not
is
at
what's
all.
confusing from like most people that have had some sort of like upbringing, you know, relating to Christianity or the Bible or whatever it is. But actually, like, God is so much more than that. So much more. It's not even, you can't even pinpoint it to like one specific thing. Hey, it is the universe.
No.
It is
Well,
source.
it is one thing.
Yeah. It's the infinite one.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to know like about were you the same sort of as me in terms of how you felt about that word, and then now where you are?
Oh my gosh, exactly the same. Like, so averted to it, because I saw religion and I was like, what is that? That just looks like a patriarchal trap, you know? I saw beautiful aspects to it, like the community side of religion I think is beautiful, because people have that support network and community that we don't really have in Western society most of the time. But I was like, not going near that. But then I always had this belief that there must be some higher power. Even when I was younger, as a teenager, I was like, surely there's like some higher power. I just hadn't been introduced to it yet. And then the way I was introduced to it was as consciousness. I was like, oh, it's consciousness. And then like my consciousness just awoke to its own consciousness. And I was like, wow, this is it. And so through yoga and meditation and things, like, you know, the word God isn't really used, especially in Buddhism, which was like my kind of biggest foundation for my spiritual understanding was Buddhism. And they really don't talk about God. They talk about like emptiness. And then I got really into like Abraham Hicks and these more new age teachings, which talk about source and the universe and this kind of thing. And I was like, oh, well, that makes sense, because I was starting to identify with something more than like the Buddhist stuff had kind of taken me so far, but I was curious about other things. And then I really got led to those teachings. So that resonated with me. I was going with that. And then I had this kind of falling away through those practices. Like I ended up discovering that what I learned through some of those new age teachings, it didn't have like a strong enough foundation for me. And these constant like affirmations and just changing my thoughts all the time was really keeping me in this like mental kind of space of controlling my reality through my thoughts, rather than just really being present in the moment, which is what the Buddha's teachings had taught me. And so I kind of returned to that, because it was complicated, that I just had like a falling out, and I started to see some levels of deception within that. And then I was just back to square one. I'm like, I don't fucking know anything anymore. Like, what is universe, source? Like, who are you, earth? I don't know, like God, goddess. And then I literally had this moment where I was at a rock bottom, and I was really struggling, and I came across this video by this American preacher, and he's this awesome guy. Can't remember his name right now, but he's got dreadlocks, and he just speaks with such passion. Like, you know, he's like, he was an ex-drug addict, and he just, like, the holy word, he was just talking about like the army of the Lord and all this stuff, and my whole body just started like vibrating listening to him. I'm like, whoa, like, what is this? And then I was just like, maybe I've missed something. And I was just like, I'm going to pray to God. Like, I've never prayed to God before, because I always believed through the New Age things that like God was within me. Like, why would I pray to myself if I'm the one that's creating my reality through my thoughts and words and actions? And, you know, I'm responsible for what I'm creating. So why would I pray? But I was just like, you know what? Right now I will try anything. So I prayed. I was like, please, God, show me the way. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, I just fully like surrendered in that moment and really asked for support. And then instantly this song started coming to me, and it was the second song on the album called Leave Now. And instantly it just started coming. It's just like, there's darkness everywhere I look. The whole world's being run by crooks, heartless reptiles who only care about money, power, control. And I'm like, God, you want me to sing about reptilians? Like, okay. But then the chorus goes like, leave now, you're not welcome here. And as I was singing this, I just felt like all these dark forces that I now see had been attacking me. Like, I take responsibility for my part in it, because you can only be attacked if there's a level of weakness within myself. But I was suffering the most hectic attacks, like so many entities. I remember just hearing these negative voices that would circle through my head that I just knew weren't mine, but they were just there, and I could not get rid of them, like, no matter what I did. Or I could only if I was deep in meditation, and you can't meditate all day every day. So as I wrote this song, I felt all these entities just like getting out of my field. I felt myself reclaiming my space as a sovereign being. And that was all thanks to God. And I now know that that word it explains something that we can connect to on a deep cellular level, because that word has been used for so long. And yes, it's been abused, and it's been hijacked, and it's been desecrated in so many ways. But that's exactly why we can now reclaim that word in its true meaning. And that is what I really feel is happening at this stage of the ascension cycle that's happening now, because so many people, just like ourselves, are doing the same. We're all being like, actually, God feels right for me now.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm separating that. I'm taking all of the religious dogma out of that. I'm taking all of the wars over the name of God out of that, because that's nothing to do with God. Like, what God really is. Like, that's what I'm all about. That's what I'm interested in. And so we may not even know at the start what God really is, but that's the journey that we're all now embarking on, is like, what is God? Who is God? How can I build my relationship with God? And that is really what is going to lead us home to our fullest potential and our highest expression on this planet.
Yeah.
And beyond.
Yeah. And I love this. And you hear this so many kind of like scenarios where like someone isn't like religious, and then they pray to God and they get a response. But the thing of the response is it comes through your own voice. And so I think that's where this like this mix up occurs, is actually like, you're still praying to God, but the answer actually comes through our own voice. And that's where and that's where the New Age concept of like God is within us comes from, and all that sort of stuff. Like, you can see that.
Of course, because it is.
Yeah. So I love that. I think in Eat, Pray, Love, there's like a reference where she like prays to God, and then God's like, just go to bed. Or but it comes through her voice, and it's exactly what she needs in that moment. It's the most compassionate choice for her in that moment, is that she needs to go to sleep or whatever.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I feel like that voice of God does communicate with us in different ways, because it does depend where you're focused. Like, if you are auditory focused, like, it will be like words that will come to you. Like, for me, I'm very feeling focused, so it's very much in like the feelings of yes and no in my body, and like the expansions and contractions, and like, yeah, listening to those subtle messages for me doesn't always come through words. Occasionally it does, but more often it's about if it feels good or like good or bad within me. It's like that emotional kind of energy, like a higher emotional energy.
Yeah, I love it. It's giving me that like connection piece now, even thinking about it, of like when I'm in session with clients, like when I'm getting them to connect to their heart, really that's what this energy is at the same time, or your intuition, that's what this energy is at the same time. Like it's in so much, there's so many ways that it can be interpreted or even come through in your experience. I love that. You definitely have a way with expressing your language. I don't know, I really want to talk about this words concept. It's kind of just coming through, like the importance of our language and the importance of the frequency behind words and how we express that. What's like your process or experience with that? Because I feel like you've probably been on a journey with like choosing some words versus others, and I know I've seen those, even like the word understanding, like to stand under, like all of these sorts of different multi-layered like energies that hold in that, like you were saying about the word God, how the word God has so much different energy, but the real pureness of it is what we're relating into, and we're like, yeah, I'm comfortable with using that right now. Are there any other big words that like have really, or even experiences with language for you that have changed how you think about things, or perhaps changed how you choose to express through language?
There's definitely been different stages in my journey where, like every kind of new level that I go to, it's like another level of vocabulary kind of comes with that. So, most of the work that I do is with words. It's just always what's resonated most with me. So I use a lot of like invocations, a lot of, invocations are like the kind of biggest thing that I use. Like every morning, I like declare an intention out loud, and then I do a 12D shield, which is like my protection, strengthening my light body, and kind of calling in my highest Christ self, that energy to be fully present here. And so all of that I do through words. And then I do this like unity vow that again is through words, and it's calling in God and all of the spiritual support available to me. And so that what I'm doing now is coming from a beautiful teacher, Lisa Renee, who I discovered as I was really coming out of that dark night of the soul period that I was, after I watched the video from the preacher, then a few days later I got guided super synchronistically to her work, and then boom, she just gave me everything I'd been waiting to remember so clearly. And I started using these practices, and I've basically used them every day since for almost 2 years now, because they were just so powerful for me. And so like I can share, maybe if I share the unity vow, you can have a feel into the language that I'm using in that, because this new language now, talking about Christ and talking about God and calling on these guardian families who are basically they're like an energy field, or like a collective that is beyond our universal time matrix. So if you think of like all the dimensions, most people are like, oh, I've got to connect to 5D, or I've got to connect to 8D, or they're just connecting with spirit guides or this and that. And a lot of those energies are not like beyond interference, basically. And so from the current framework that I'm working with, it's like the 12th dimension is your Christ avatar, or is the frequency of your Christ. And Christ is much more than, the person. He was just one Christ. Like we are all, Christ beings, all of us. All of us angelic humans. We all have the potential to fully embody that Christ energy. And so there's groups of beings that are existing at that level that cannot be interfered with. And then God is beyond that level. And God, like the first emanation from God, are these beings. They're called the guardians, or the master Christos families. Yeah, I don't want to go too into that because I'm just realizing this is a whole can of worms. But
I'm kind of loving it at the same time.
I would love to share the prayer. So I say this every morning.
Yeah.
So I'll share it with you now. Defenders of truth, sovereignty, and liberation, the guardian family serving the one. From across all the multiverses, I call upon my guardian families to join me now. My unification is demonstrated in the waves of omni love. I sound my heart tone tune now. My energy template updated, renewed, and forever perpetuated in the eternally sustained light. My alchemical container is consecrated and dedicated to the purposes of one, and I endeavor to be the knower of God to then be the way shower of God. Please sustain me in the eternal power of my God consecration. I have asked for gatekeeping in order to hold my mission, my mutual highest purposes in service to the one light, our source, the living light code. My intention is unification, the cosmic Christ principle, as an energetic and manifested reality here and now. I request a handshake to fortify my spiritual links through the universal cosmic triad and into the core of one, the 0-point God matrix, that which is the source of my genesis. With deep reverence for all of life, dear God, breathe your living life codes into my creative form. I set my intention now to remember that which I am fully, completely, and totally. I state my mutual purpose as one. Please resurrect all inorganic or artificial patterns to the organic and eternal living light now. And to that I say, thank God, I'm the living eternal light. I am the cosmic Christ. And so it is lovingly decreed.
Wow. That's really interesting, the feeling that I had through my like heart space as you were reading that. It's almost like a deep fullness, like it's heavy but not in a bad way, in a way. It was really intense. But
yes, that's so interesting that you say that, because so a lot of people feel like this Christ energy is just going to be like this pure, like super light love and light. But actually the way that as I've connected to it, it's a lot stronger. It's like, and it's a neutral. It's like bringing all duality into neutral. Like, we are here on a mission. Like, this is what we're doing. We must be focused. We are here on a reclamation mission to restore the fallen earth, because, you know, there's so many ways to see it. But the way that I see it now is that the earth has dropped into a very, very dark eon of time. And, you know, we have been oppressed and controlled by outside forces that, you know, are not who we are as a race. You know, like, obviously you can see everything as like the one whole, but there are energies that have chosen to go against that wholeness. And that is who we're separating from now. These are the beings that we're getting off this planet, you know, the reptilians and all these things that we were talking about earlier. Like, these beings don't actually want to be one with God. They don't want love for all beings. And that is like crazy to think about. And you might say, oh, like, you know, that's duality. It's like, there is a level of duality that is true, and there's a level of non-duality that is true. And right now, I feel like I'm on a reclamation mission on Earth to restore the original organic blueprint on this planet, and to restore the original organic blueprint of angelic humans, who is who we really are. Like, we were created as the most incredible species that had so many incredible gifts and abilities, and was so connected to all that is. And that is what we're reclaiming and remembering now and rising into now, which is this beautiful experience and journey that we have ahead of us. And, you know, in a way, it's beautiful that we're able to rise from such heavy depths. But I really do feel like, you know, the depths of the horrors that have happened on this planet, that it's really important that we see what has actually happened here, because it is fucking hectic and intense, and it should never exist, you know, like what has happened to people, these levels of suffering. But as we hold that, it's also like now we rise up from that, and that is going to, that is what this journey is about as well. So
thank you so much for sharing that. I want, like, obviously, like, for some people they're like, oh my God, that sounds like a really big job to be having to to do. Oh my God, I've got, like, how do my life's hard enough as it is. What are the ways that you keep, like, obviously your invocations that you work with, but are there other ways that you have found that have allowed you to step back into your divinity and step back into that pure channel of yourself? What practices and processes do you use on the daily, and have you gone through to allow yourself to feel like okay and good in that space?
Yeah, beautiful question, my love, because I know, like, as I was waking up to these things and this new level that we aren't taught in the new age, this whole new level of reality that was suddenly coming to light within my consciousness, it was really intense to face up to these things, and like the levels of darkness that we do have to face at different times in our journey. And so obviously finding these particular practices helped me so much. I really recommend looking at Lisa Renee's work. I also share these particular practices and a really powerful entity clearing in the songbook for Disclosure. So there's a songbook that goes along with the Disclosure album that is like on a pay what you feel basis. And basically you get the book and the USB that has the album on it, and it takes you through these practices and basically all the practices that I do to support me through this and that supported me through that warrior awakening. As a whole, what it comes back to is always so, so simple. And to put it in a nutshell, it really is the compassionate witness consciousness, because it's easy to get caught up in all of these things and all the things that we're doing and all these different teachings and this and that. But ultimately, the energy of Christ, the energy of like our highest self, really is this compassionate, loving witness of all creation. Like being that, like if you imagine God, how God looks at us, how the highest, like most divine essence of creation that created all, how that consciousness looks at us, that pure love, like that is how we must look at everything. And so for me, just sitting in stillness and silence and just being that compassionate witness, like often it starts with just needing to be an observer. You have to observe your thoughts, you have to observe your emotions and energies, you have to be aware. But once you reach a certain level of awareness, then your heart is able to open more and more to that experience. And so whatever darkness is happening, you can still be holding that darkness in love. And that is this muscle that just continues to grow and grow and grow. And then whatever is occurring in your reality, you're holding space for yourself. And that is, your highest expression, holding space for your human self, because equally we remember that we are, we're humans on this journey of remembering who we are. We're still clearing all of the layers of deception and all the lies and all the shit that's been put on us that we thought was us and it actually wasn't. We're learning how to release all of that and come back to who we are. And so sometimes that can be really hard for us. And when you're able to tap into that consciousness that holds your human self, when you can be the parent to yourself, I think that is really like the core thing for me that it comes back to. Being my true mother, being my true father. Often our parents were not reflections of what our holy mother and father of God is.
Yeah.
And so that's the biggest one for me. And that has so many different levels to it, because you just start to be more gentle and loving towards yourself in all ways. So
have you read any of Paul Farini's work?
No.
He has the book that really helped. Well, there was a number of things that helped me heal my relationship with God, I say. But his book, Love Without Conditions, I feel is like a really good, it's just, there's a lot of simplistic teachings about how can you love unconditionally, and it's written from the point of view of Jesus, and it's written with reference to God, and one of the lines in there that just always sits with me is like, God does not give questionable gifts. It's like there's always a reason that you need to navigate what you're going through and to allow yourself to move to a more compassionate state. And you would love that book.
Yes, please send it to me.
I will. He has a bunch of books. He has heaps of books, but that was the one that and I read. Alex and I read that whilst we were fasting. Both times we just read a chapter a night to each other, and such a powerful thing to read while you're in that space as well. I think it really allowed for me a lot of stuff to come up around my belief systems and like work through them. And then because I just had so much space to do that because I was fasting, like you actually work through them and you're like, oh my gosh, wow. So yeah, really, really
Beautiful.
Awesome readings there. I want to ask you, obviously we've touched on Christ consciousness a lot, and I mentioned to you before we got on record that I've been in this Mary Magdalene vortex, and I've spoken to the guys on here about it briefly time and time again, and they're probably like, what does that even mean, Kristin? Like, you're in this Mary Magdalene vortex. But I wanted to know what have you, if you've had a journey with Mary Magdalene, where you've been with her, because obviously there's a lot of scripture that have been removed in terms of like what her true role was in Jesus's life. And there's so much different like exploration of the school of thought of her, but the embodiment of what she means to me is like this female Christ consciousness, and there's so much power in that. And so I'm really curious to know what your journey has been, if any, with her.
Yes, I would love to share. This topic excites me a lot. I haven't journeyed specifically with Mary Magdalene at all, really, and I don't feel a super strong call or like that I'm a part of her bloodline in a way, because there's certain of us angelic humans who are specifically connected to her bloodline. But what I feel connected to is the Sophia. So the Sophia is a word for basically the feminine Christ. So I use the term Christ Sophia as this feminine Christ, and Mary Magdalene is one aspect of Sophia, and there's several aspects of Sophia that are like archetypal aspects. So I've never gone too deep into much archetypal work, but I've seen a lot of people going deep into Mary Magdalene. I think it's a beautiful thing, and for some people that her energy is what most connects them to the Sophia consciousness. And for me, I haven't felt too interested or called to any of the archetypes yet. And when I say archetypes, like these archetypes are literally spiritual bodies as well. Like they actually exist as within the earth's like light body, and they are beings, consciousness beings that are returning to the earth as well. So like Mary Magdalene was an incarnation of the Sophia consciousness, and you know, one of these Christ beings basically. And so I just connect with Sophia, and to me that includes Mary Magdalene, that includes my teacher calls it the triple solar goddess, and so there's two others as well as I can't remember it off the top of my head right now, but it's all part of this Sophia consciousness, and that is what is really rising on this planet right now. And it's beautiful. Like she often speaks about how like Sophia basically got taken like hostage, and like in these energetic realms, like she was raped and abused, and her body parts were destroyed, and all of these things happen on these energetic realms, and we have been healing that now. And now Sophia has returned, like she has risen up from her oppressors, and she is reclaiming like her throne and her crown as the divine feminine like essence, the daughter of God, you know, that she is. And so it's really, really beautiful to be a part of that. And that feminine energy, you know, that is the energy of expression and song and sound, you know, Holy Mother and Holy Sophia, that is light and sound, that is the expression. And then Holy Father and the Christ, you know, that masculine principle, that is more like the structure that contains that and the laws that contain that. From my current understanding, I'm still like learning and just, you know, tiptoeing into all of this. Yeah, so for me, I feel very connected to like different lineages, like the Cathar lineages. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they were a group of Essenes that followed these teachings that like Mary Magdalene, you know, had left. You know, they hid a lot of these scriptures that, and they were working with these scriptures that had been, you know, tried to be taken away and all these kinds of things. And they really connect with like the light language and singing the songs of Sophia, this kind of thing. Still like total newbie in this area, but it's something that I'm starting to get into. And so who knows if a journey with Mary Magdalene will await me. But yeah, it's beautiful to just explore all these different expressions of this pure divine feminine energy.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that perspective. I love that it ties back in like to this expression piece, and like the feminine is this part of us that like has this deep desire to express. And I was going to ask you, I had like a note much earlier on about like people who find it hard to express, like what would you say to them to help them with their expression? And I just, you know, I'll still let you answer that question, but also I just love the reflection of the more that we're in touch with that feminine Christ within ourselves, the more the expression can come through.
Yes, that's so true. And it ties into what we were just talking about, the compassionate witness, because Sophia is, you know, she is that compassionate witness that loves you as your human expression unconditionally. So when your human expression is exploring making sounds and exploring writing songs or exploring, you know, new creations and stepping into new realms in creative expression, when that love, that pure love is holding you in that, it's easy to not get caught up in the limiting beliefs and not, you know, reject yourself and shame yourself and all of these things, because she is there with you. And if you also really, you know, ask for her to be expressed through you, like, I express my Christ Sophia now, I express my Christ Sophia now, I embody my Christ Sophia, like if you want to use that language or whatever, you know, resonates with you. But if you ask that highest part of you to express through you, then as that energy just becomes stronger and stronger, as that channel clears more and more, then you just become that expression. You just become the Christ Sophia, you know, and we are all stepping into that, especially a lot of the like indigos or starseeds or people that have really come here with a strong mission in this lifetime. We are stepping into that Christ Sophia embodiment in these next few years. Like, this is our time of remembering. And so, yeah, just setting that intention and then just allowing that, and it will bring stuff up, because as more light comes in, it's going to bring out whatever needs to be purged. But then as soon as that stuff comes up, you hold yourself in that love and compassion and you just keep moving forward.
So beautiful. And I love the reference earlier about light language, because I know that you used to do a lot of like dabbling. I don't know if you do anymore. I think you were my introduction to light language and playing in that space. And like we were talking about the language earlier, like in the energetics of words, it's like there's a real other frequency that can come through when we just allow sound and movement to move through us in expression, isn't there?
Yeah, so true. The light language was absolutely integral in me being able to open up to using words again, because for a lot of things, you can't even express it through words. It's something beyond words. It's something beyond the mind. Yeah. So when you fully let go into just sound, it reaches into places that you can't access with your mind. And so tapping into that, like, I really recommend awakening like your light language or just your free expression. I still use this. I don't like using the word light language as much, because I do feel it's been hijacked a little in the new age, because it's a way to get people to be channeling ascended masters, channeling spirit guides, channeling all these beings that basically are very often pretending to be those beings. So often they can be like lower level, like demonic spirits that I'm like, yep, I'm your spirit guide. Let me just come into that channel and have a fun time. And this is something that I wish I had learned when I first started practicing light language, because I was trying to channel this and that and channel. And then through really returning to the Christ energy in this past kind of 2 years, I've realized that I don't want to channel anyone else except my Christ Sophia, except God. Like, cut out all the levels in between and just go straight to the highest source, you know? There's no point mucking around in those other levels, because the highest level brings you everything you need, and just keep going for that. And so that is one of the kind of new age traps. But now that I know this, I'm able to help educate others about using that protection. And the energy of Christ is really what can protect you, because Christ has authority over that entire domain, you know, that 12th dimension that I was speaking about. Everything below that, our inner Christ has authority over that, because being the son, the daughter of God, we have command over this realm. And so that's a really powerful thing to remember. And when you start doing light language from that space, it's a totally different experience. And that's what I'm really starting to tap into now.
I love it. I love that reminder. It's like, yeah, we've just got to tap into our own Christ, our own Sophia Christ, and our own ourselves. Like, what else would we channel?
Yeah,
you know?
Just us. Yeah, me. Like,
exactly.
Just me. Yeah, it's beautiful.
I have some questions for you, Isabella.
Yes.
Yeah, some fun little questions. Let me just find them. What is your sun, moon, and rising signs?
Oh, let me see if I can remember. The sun is Cancer, moon is Scorpio, and ascending is Cancer. I'm like, I got a million Cancers in there, but I've never looked too deep into my astrology.
So watery. I love it.
Yeah. Oh my God, so watery.
Do you know your human design?
Oh, can't remember.
It's okay. What's your favorite fruit?
Favorite fruit? So many. Mangoes are definitely up there, very high.
Yeah.
But a close second is like every other fruit.
Yeah. And Costa Rican papayas beat every other fruit in my books.
Oh, you've had Costa Rican papayas.
You've been eating papayas, obviously.
I've been having them, but for some reason I just like have gone a bit off them. I don't know what happened.
Oh my God.
You know, sometimes you need a break. Sometimes you need a break from a certain fruit if you like overdo it. Like when I was up visiting you around Queensland, papayas every single morning for breakfast the whole time. So yeah, I've needed a break, but
yeah, oh my gosh, you got so much good fruit where you are though.
Oh, it's been amazing. Yeah.
If you could return to one moment in your life to re-experience it again, what moment would you return to?
Oh my goodness. I don't know if I would need to.
Just to witness.
I just feel just to witness it again. Oh my God. Well, I could do some like psychedelic trips again, because I've gone off them now. Like, is that a common answer? I've gone off them now, and I don't know if I'll ever do another one. So I'm like, I would love to see the world like that. But I'm also like, now I'm at this point where I'm like, I'm not taking the fast track anymore. I'm going to get to that state of consciousness through my own inner work.
I love it. Forest or the ocean?
Oh, ocean now. Yeah.
What is there a plant or a flower that you work with the most?
I don't specifically work with any. But yeah, I have just a lot of love for them. Like for me, it's not so much this, it's just like a mutual love that I have and share with them. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite crystal?
At the moment, it's diamond.
Oh, beautiful.
because the diamond sun is the original angelic human blueprint of our DNA. So I'm all about that. And I feel like if my soul was a crystal, it would be diamond. Yeah.
I love it. If you were an animal, what animal would you be?
There's a few. It was always like butterfly for ages.
Yeah.
That's like my floral, like dancing around little fairy part of me. And then I've also got like this dolphin energy and this whale energy, like as my two ocean animals. Like one's more like playful and joyful, and one's a bit like deeper and ancient and that kind of thing. That's who I would be.
Mine's dolphin too, so I was seeing your dolphin.
Oh, that's so nice. I love horses too, but I'm not sure if I am a horse so much. Like they're just very special friends. That's
funny because I'm the year of the horse, so I have the horse energy too. So maybe that's why it's
my special friend.
Is before we get into how people can get in touch with you or have a listen to your music, is there anything you would like to leave the listeners with in terms of last thoughts, summations?
Just like, let's have fun and enjoy this epic journey ahead of us. Like, I am so excited for what's to come. The worst is behind us. Let's do this, family. Let's come together. Let's connect. Let's collaborate. Let's support each other on our journeys. Like, collaboration is going to be so important in these coming years. We can't do it alone. We've got to rise up together. We're so much stronger together. We're so much more empowered together. So yeah, let's make those connections and just enjoy the ride.
Amazing. And if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that? Or if people want to listen to your music, what are the best ways to do that too?
Yeah. So I've got a little bit of music on Spotify and Apple Music and all of those streaming platforms. You'll find my first single, my EP, and the new album Disclosure.
And that's under Miss Honey,
So if you look up Miss Honey on Spotify or whatever streaming platform, if you search Miss Honey Disclosure, like it'll come up quicker. And then if you don't have a streaming platform, you can just go straight to my website, misshoneymusic.com, and you can listen to all of the music there for free as well. My songbooks are also available there, and I've also got like Instagram, Miss Honey Music, YouTube, Miss Honey, like all of those things, you know, you can find me.
Yeah.
And is that all of them? I'm pretty sure.
I can put them all in the notes so they can find it easily as well.
Amazing. Yay.
Thank you so much for coming and having a beautiful chat with me, Isabella.
Oh, my love. It has been so divine. So blessed to connect with you and to be able to share in this deep way together. And I really hope that this has been supportive to whoever listens.